This morning, we are gathering for the launching of the agriculture track, the future of Africa's agriculture and food systems. We are extremely proud to partner with YouthConnekt, the Ministry of Youth and Culture, and the Ministry for Agriculture and Animal Resources of Rwanda to organize this track. The launch will be followed by a plenary session that comprises high policymakers, experts, and youth agripreneurs. This afternoon at 2, a masterclass on Fit for Finance will take place here in Tare Arena. Private sector, development banks, agripreneurs will be participating, together with RIAF, which is the Rwanda Youth in Agribusiness Forum. A marketplace under the theme Buy from Youth, which Rwanda has been pioneering, will take place in the city center of Kigali in the car-free zone. We look forward to having all of you visiting it and seeing what our agripreneurs exhibiting. Without further ado, though, I'm kindly asking all of you, and particularly young farmers, agripreneurs, to welcome Honorable Minister Gerardine Mukeshimana, Minister for Agriculture, Animal Resources of Rwanda, to open this event. Thank you very much. Murakoze.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, young people. Honorable ministers and government officials, members of diplomatic corps, young people present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Maramutse. Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me take this time to thank the YouthConnekt Africa and partners who are co-organizing this summit in Rwanda for giving us this opportunity, dedicating this morning and today other events that are associated with the agricultural track. I think, except the new ones, but we all know that the agriculture is, one young lady said, it's an oxygen of African economies. We usually call it a backbone of African economies, but one young person said, stop calling it a backbone because the backbone, you can move without it if you use a wheelchair, but she reminded us that we need to make it an oxygen of African economies. That is really big deal for us as Africans, because as 2 years ago, in 2020, almost 44% of total employment in Africa is found in agriculture sector. And 52% of African population lives in rural areas and make their living by working in agriculture and associated value chains. That is on African continent, but that is not a different story when we come to Rwanda. It's actually a similar story. In Rwanda, agriculture contributes 26% of our national GDP, and it does employ 66% of our population. Therefore, agriculture is not an option or optional activity, but it's an absolute necessity for our country as Rwanda to develop, but also for our African other nations. Currently, we estimate, I saw some people from the Africa Development Bank, but they estimated that currently 420 million youth on our continent are aged between 15 and 35 years of age. And by 2030, young Africans are expected to constitute 42% of the global population, or the global youth. When you have a number like that, it's really important to look at what else is associated with that number. What is associated with that number is a massive need of jobs. And it's a massive number of mouths to feed. Therefore, young people in this room, you have an interest at looking back and look at what is it in this sector that probably for so many years we have left to the old, to the uneducated, to the less fortunate. Again, I think it's a statistics from the World Bank or Africa Development Bank. There is a number that says that by 2030, the Africa agribusinesses are going to be $1 trillion industry. That is something that we need to pause and think about as people are sitting in this room. In Rwanda, we have a good number of young who are already in agribusinesses and other activities of the food value chains. And I really want to commend them and thank them, because once we started engaging, attracting young people back in 2016, we saw so much changing. We saw a positive narrative being developed around agriculture. I mean, they have changed the way agriculture is seen in Rwanda. Without them, I don't think that we will be where we are at today. So I wanted to pause and thank all of young people, agripreneurs that are in agribusinesses in Rwanda. These young people, they are in various activities, and I want to highlight a few for any other new person who will be thinking of entering agribusinesses activities in Rwanda. We have so many tracks, including the research and development and the promotion of improved seeds. We have irrigation, and especially promotion of small-scale irrigation technologies, but also the whole range of innovations around water management, given that the previous session was discussing the climate change. And as we speak, the whole Horn of Africa, more than almost 300 million of people, are facing severe hunger that is caused by drought. In certain region of our, countries in the region, they are facing drought for 5 consecutive years. You can imagine what irrigation and the smart water management can do in circumstances like those. There are also many other activities. Being Rwanda, a land of 1,000 years, erosion control, again, and water management is a big opportunity. The promotion of private extension services that provide information to farmers on best agricultural practices, ICT-related technologies in agriculture, such as, we have a group of young people that is using remote sensing and drones to monitor what is happening in agriculture, e-markets, and other ICT-related opportunities. Post-harvest infrastructure and management, including cold chain services and value addition, are housing a huge number of opportunities, since agriculture doesn't stop just in producing food. It goes beyond, up to the retailing and the table of the consumers. Again, I have been working with young people of Rwanda for a couple of years now. I know the challenges that they are facing. Two are the major ones. Number one, having access to the right skills. Skills is a big challenge that is affecting the young people in agribusinesses, because it's not only those who went to school to study agriculture, or those coming from the farming families that are in agriculture. We see a whole range of education disciplines that are venturing in agriculture. The second one is access to finance. That's why it was announced that this afternoon we are going to have a master class on how to fit for the finance. There is a challenge to have access to finance, but also, as it is mostly said, money may be available, but how to tap into it as young people is a challenge. Even once you have it, how you manage it and you make the most out of it, we have observed that it can be a challenge. That's the reason why this masterclass has been prepared for this, during this YouthConnekt challenge. As a government of Rwanda, we have been working hard to provide opportunities for young people and try to alleviate the challenges that they are facing. I thank some of the partners that are here, such as FAO, UNDP. They have been working, even IFAD, they have been working with us to alleviate, to reduce the challenges that our young people that are venturing in agribusinesses are facing. We, as the government, we have been trying to address as much as we can the skill gap that are still found in young people that are in agribusinesses. On annual basis, we send close to 200 young people to Israel. It's a partnership between the government of Israel and the government of Rwanda to go and have hands-on training on how to do modern agriculture. Those are mostly the young people who graduate their bachelor degree and the type of associate degrees in IPRCs or vocational trainings. We, 3 or 4 years ago, on top of regular agricultural schools, in partnership with a friend of Rwanda, a foundation, the Buffett Foundation, we have set up a high learning institution in conservation agriculture. We call it Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, or RICA, and we are super excited of how our young people are being trained, and our first cohort is graduating next August. We also, in a financial landscape, the government of Rwanda has provided various guarantee funds for young people to have access to the finance. And 2 weeks ago, we launched, in partnership with the World Bank, an operation of $300 million US, and we really encourage young people to tap into the opportunities that are there. There is a youth innovation challenge that is going to provide almost, I think, 70% of the capital that is needed by young people to do their businesses. But there is also another big matching grant where we provide 40% and a person will bring in his 60%. And last not least, we have provided a financial window where the borrowers are going to be borrowing under a blended interest rates, and we expect that the interest rates may fall below 10%. Those are new, exciting financial opportunities that are coming up, but we'll continue to work together, listening to the young people so that we can keep shaping up new support for them to be successful in agribusinesses and food systems. So I really I'm looking forward of the exciting connections and exciting new ideas that are going to come out of this YouthConnekt. I really appreciate all of these young people who traveled from different parts of the world to gather here in Kigali and be part of these exciting events. And I want to thank the organizers of this agricultural track, and I hope this YouthConnekt in general is going to be a very good learning experience for all of these young people who are in Rwanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for those very, very encouraging words. And I like what you said. Agriculture is an oxygen for Africa. We cannot live without oxygen. Therefore, we cannot live without agriculture. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And thank you very much for highlighting two key constraints that the sector faces. And I'm happy to hear the wonderful things that Rwanda is doing to address access to skills and access to finance. Excellencies here present, distinguished guests, the youth of Africa, allow me to introduce the panelists for this plenary session on the future of agriculture, and we'll be focusing on hearing youth perspectives on transforming the agricultural sector in Africa. I'll now introduce the panelists. We have in our panel the Honorable Minister of Youth from Sierra Leone, Honorable Bangura. If you can take the floor, come and take your seat, please. A round of applause for Honorable Minister. We have another Minister of Youth from Senegal, Honorable Papen Ndo. Please, Honorable Minister, if you can take your seat as well. We have young agripreneurs who are doing amazing things in our continent. Allow me to introduce them. Nana Prempa, CEO of Grow For Me. It's an African agri-tech digital platform that enables investment in the agricultural production. There's Miss Esther Wanjiru Kimani, CEO of Farmer Lifeline. She has a device that enables farmers to detect crop pests and diseases. Please welcome Miss Esther Wanjiru to the platform. She's from Kenya. We have Miss Tamara Busamba, CEO of Agridis, a production and distribution company in Central Africa. Ms. Claire Hassun, co-founder and CEO of Upload, solving logistical challenges in Southern Africa. We have Ms. Florence Namaganda, an agripreneur producing mushrooms and value-adding mushrooms, as well as providing coaching, therefore addressing the skills, the issue of access to skills for young farmers in Uganda. And we have our development partner, and representing the African Development Bank, we have Mr. Edson Mpisi, the Chief Financial Economist and Coordinator of the Enable Youth Program at the African Development Bank. And I think we need to really give them a round of applause because we have a balanced panel. You can see 4 females and 4 males, and this is what we want to achieve gender parity. Ladies and gentlemen, without taking much of the time, I'll ask each of our panelists, because we've started very late, to try and be succinct in responding to the questions that I'll pose to them. And I'll start by the Honorable Minister from Sierra Leone. As was introduced already, this session really is to showcase what is possible within the agricultural sector. And what we've done here is to balance out the voice of the youth with that of our policymakers and development partners. Honorable Minister, you were one of the pioneers of YouthConnekt Africa. Yet, this is the first time we are having a track session really dedicated to agriculture. But as you've heard today, we used to call it the backbone of our economies. Now we know it's the oxygen of our economies. So, Honorable Minister, I would like to hear more about what your government is doing to engage youth in agriculture, first of all, and then take time to also advise what youth can do and how they can tap into this a sector that they've shunned for so long. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you really said, I'm Mohamed Bangura, Minister of Youth of the Republic of Sierra Leone. When you look at the theme this year, Resilient Africa, I just want to relate that to Sierra Leone and how resilient young people in Sierra Leone are. 20 years ago, we had a very deadly war, and it was 11 years war. After 20 years, we had Ebola hit again. That was another shock for young people in Sierra Leone. After Ebola, you had mudslide, and now we had COVID. That is to tell you, young people in Sierra Leone are very resilient. That makes it very fragile in a lot of things. After the war, they disarmed those young people physically, but they were never disarmed mentally. I was blessed with the opportunity to serve in 2018. I inherited a youth farm. But the model about that farm was young people have been paid, they work, and whatever proceeds we sell and put in the account. I realized that you can't pay them to work, and when you want them to be independent, I designed another model, dividing the entire country. We have chiefdoms. We have 191 chiefdoms. I decided to have 200 chiefdom youth farm. And that was 2019. I continued the model I inherited 2018, and 2019 we had what called chiefdom youth farms. That one created 10,000 jobs. And the government plowed for them, gave them seed, fertilizer, and realized again, during the time of weeding, young people still asking, oh, what do we need to get? They need to pay also the weed. I said, oh, look, you're working for yourself. Government has plowed for you, give you fertilizer, give you skills that you need, and now you're asking for another traditional payment for you to weed. I said, no, that won't work. And we had a policy shift 002. That means bringing the private sector into agriculture. And fortunately, His Excellency, the President and the Minister of Finance bought about 400 tractors, 2,000 farm equipment. And I'm one person that advised that when you talk about innovative farming, commercial farming, you need to bring in the private sector. I did advise that all these equipment are given to the private sector so that the private sector will manage them. You know exactly how it's like when you give equipment of that nature to government officials, and they've been doing that since Adam was a boy. And I didn't see any progress. I said, let's give them to the private sector. The policy shift 002 is creating platform for young people. They'll apply for you at children level, like 100 hectares, give them seed, give them fertilizer, but it goes like gradually. If this year they did this for you, next year we'll reduce the spending, and the following year we'll reduce the spending too. And fast forward, now I've established the Youth Empowerment Fund. And thanks to the Minister of Youth and Culture here in Rwanda, we did a vast study tour in Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, for us to get best practice and get a Sierra Leone model. I'm pleased to inform you that Cabinet has approved the Empowerment Fund. And I'm also advocating to the bank governor to see a Youth Enterprise Fund. Cabinet has approved, but yet, the money that I asked for is about $8 million for startup capital, and the Cabinet did ask that the Minister of Youth and the Minister of Finance negotiate on the amount, and that's where we are now. So what works, what does not work, is that when we talk about commercial farming, we need to have young people to take the lead in that. Access to finance, yes, but when you talk about access to finance, what would be the collateral for young people to access those finance? Let's go back to the financial institutions in Africa. I'm a banker myself. I worked for Standard Chartered Bank before 2010, 11, 12. If you look at the banking products, 20 years, 30 years, the same product they used to have are the same product they have up to date. And I asked, why can't you have a model that says, if you have a very good degree, you can use that degree, original certificate, as a collateral for you to access funds? And that's what we are pushing now. Hopefully in the next couple of months, the Bank of Sierra Leone and the Youth Empowerment Fund will be moving towards that direction. Let young people be creative and access finance with the little that they have, and they will not ask them for collateral, like bring a house, bring a vehicle. If my dad, my mom don't have a house, where do you expect me to have a house for me to access those finances? Let's reduce the benchmark that we request for young people to access finance. Let's use model. We talk about, it's only now we're bringing agriculture in a panel like this. And we said, agriculture has been the oxygen. So 4, 5, 6 years ago, we've not been living. So now that we've started using the oxygen, let's reduce the benchmark for young people to access finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for those words. And congratulations for the work that you're doing. I wish you all the best with the Youth Employment Fund and also the innovative financing products that you're working on. Moving on, I would like to now introduce and call upon the Honorable Minister from Senegal, Honorable Papa Malik Ndo. You're new to this role, but you're not new to our continent, and you've heard what the Honorable Minister of Rwanda has said. In your opinion, what are 2 or 3 key drivers shaping the future of agri-food systems in Africa? And how would you advise youth to take advantage of these trends? And please also share what you're doing to engage youth in agriculture in your country.
Merci beaucoup. Je m'appelle Pape Malik Ndour, ministre sénégalais de la jeunesse, de l'entrepreneuriat et de l'emploi. Je voudrais tout d'abord féliciter notre collègue, le ministre rwandais de l'Agriculture, pour sa brillante prestation. Il a proposé un exposé clair, limpide et plein d'enseignements. Donc je le félicite. Je voudrais aussi remercier YouthConnekt qui a bien voulu nous associer à ce panel de haut niveau qui traite d'une question essentielle, l'agriculture. Le président Kagame le disait hier, l'agriculture est le socle sur lequel repose notre société. Aujourd'hui, nous pouvons parler, nous pouvons voyager, nous pouvons interagir parce que nous sommes en santé. Nous sommes en santé parce que nous sommes soignés. Nous sommes en santé aussi parce que nous mangeons. Et tout cela est rendu possible parce qu'il y a l'agriculture. Au-delà, il faut le dire, l'agriculture occupe une place importante dans nos économies, notamment les économies africaines. Et cette place tend à s'accroître dans le contexte actuel où tous les pays quand même s'efforcent à donner plus de poids au secteur primaire, notamment l'agriculture. Et vous savez que le processus des transformations structurelles des économies africaines ont été lancés dans beaucoup de pays. Et cela tend quand même à donner plus de poids à l'agriculture, plus de poids au secteur primaire, naturellement du fait que c'est un secteur qui crée beaucoup d'emplois et qui crée beaucoup de richesses. Bon, maintenant, si je dois citer concrètement des facteurs qui peuvent influencer positivement l'agriculture, moi je pense qu'il nous faut d'abord maîtriser les dérèglements climatiques. On l'a dit, et je pense que ça sera une répétition, les questions liées au climat impactent beaucoup sur l'agriculture africaine. Parce qu'il faut le dire, nous avons encore une agriculture qui dépend beaucoup encore de la pluie. Donc ce phénomène qui aujourd'hui prend de l'ampleur est un phénomène que nous ne maîtrisons pas. Si je donne l'exemple du Sénégal, cette année, nous avons eu beaucoup d'eau, il y a eu beaucoup de pluie. Des records ont été battus. Dans certaines zones du pays, on nous a dit que la pluie, le nombre de millimètres qu'il y a eu comme pluie, on n'a jamais eu ces chiffres depuis très longtemps. Mais est-ce qu'on peut garantir l'année prochaine qu'on aura ces mêmes millimètres? Donc il nous faut maîtriser effectivement ces phénomènes. Et malheureusement, ce sont des questions qui dépassent l'Afrique. Les questions liées au climat doivent trouver des solutions au plan mondial et ce n'est pas tout le temps que la voix de l'Afrique est tout le temps attendue. Donc ça, c'est une question primordiale. L'autre question aussi, c'est par rapport aux investissements que nous devons faire. Parce que comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, nous avons encore une agriculture qui dépend beaucoup du climat, de la pluie, de la saison des pluies, etc. Donc il nous faut davantage investir dans la maîtrise des ouvrages hydrauliques. Et ça, je pense que c'est une problématique auquel nous faisons face. Maintenant, l'autre question aussi, c'est la question de la formation des jeunes. Les jeunes, effectivement, doivent être formés dans les nouvelles techniques culturelles qui nous permettront effectivement d'accroître la productivité agricole dans nos pays. Et je pense qu'il y a beaucoup d'efforts qu'il faudrait faire. Au Sénégal, particulièrement quand on a diagnostiqué la problématique de la participation des jeunes dans ce secteur, il a été établi que les jeunes, quand ils veulent investir dans le secteur, ils sont très souvent confrontés par 3 contraintes majeures. D'abord, il y a l'accès au foncier, il y a le problème du financement, je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, il faut beaucoup plus de financement pour que les jeunes puissent disposer de leur propre infrastructure hydro-agricole, mais aussi il y a la question cruciale de la formation des jeunes. Donc, les fameux 3F sont les contraintes auxquelles les jeunes sont confrontés. Maintenant, l'État du Sénégal a mis en place un programme qui est sous la responsabilité et sous la tutelle du ministère de la Jeunesse, le programme des domaines agricoles communautaires, qui essaie de trouver des solutions par rapport à ces questions-là, notamment l'accès aux fonciers. Plusieurs hectares de terre ont été mis à la disposition du programme par le gouvernement. Près de 30 000 hectares de terre aujourd'hui sont à la disposition du programme des domaines agricoles communautaires qui a pour charge de les exploiter. mais aussi qui a pour charge d'investir sur des infrastructures, afin donc de dégrader le financement dont les jeunes auront besoin pour faire leurs activités. Et après, les domaines agricoles communautaires sont avant tout des plateformes où il y a tout un dispositif qui est mis en place, un dispositif logistique, mais aussi un dispositif de formation pour accompagner et suivre les jeunes qui peuvent aujourd'hui valablement faire leurs activités dans ces plateformes. Bon, ça a été une contribution quand même du Sénégal pour essayer de trouver des solutions par rapport aux questions auxquelles les jeunes aujourd'hui font face. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. You've highlighted some of the key trends. We have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, which we'll hear more about later. We are honored to have the Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. We'll hear more about that towards the end of the session. And you also highlighted climate change, which links to the previous session, which was here, and for what you're doing, availing 30,000 hectares of land for youth to exploit in Senegal. Thank you very much for those remarks. And you also mentioned that access to finance remains a key challenge for youth. And this is a very appropriate way to segue to our young agripreneur, Mr. Nana Prempa from Ghana, whose company is investing and working with young farmers as well as smallholder farmers in the area of digital agriculture and investment in production. Mr. Nana, you're the next panelist. As you know, I mean, this has been said by the Honorable Minister in her opening remarks, that access to finance is a challenge for people at different segments of the value chain. Your platform, Grow For Me, enables investments in agriculture and connects farmers to capital and vice versa. Tell us more about this platform, what you're doing, and the various value chain actors that you work with, and what you see as the future, what we need to do to expand this kind of solutions throughout the continent. You have the floor.
Thank you very much for the question, and it's a pleasure to be here. To give you context about what we've done in our platform, because many young people are here with smartphones, I'd like you to take your phones and Google growforme.com, growforme.com. And basically what you find is that we built a platform that allows any single individual to become a farmer or a commodity trader, meaning you can simply go on our website and finance the production of an acre of maize or soybean or any other commodity for that matter. And at the end of the harvest, the commodities are sold and we profit share the returns with you, the farmer, and ourselves. And I'd like the young people here to experience that, because what we've built is a platform that is putting the power of financing agriculture in the hands of young people like yourselves and myself. For the very first time, we can channel our limited capital into producing the food we eat. But why is this important? Once again, a lot of you have smartphones here, so I'd like the young people here to just Google post-harvest loss in Africa. Just put that in your phone for a minute, and you will find that over 30% of cereals produced goes waste. What does that mean? If a farmer farms and has 100 bags of maize, 30 of those bags will go to waste. Now, when you come to the case of root tubers, 50% goes to waste. And when it comes to vegetables, 70% goes to waste. That means that if a farmer grows 100 bulbs of cabbage, 70 of those goes waste. So the second part of our business and our platform is an ability for you to finance commodity aggregation. So what we've built is a USSD-based application that allows a farmer to sell his or her maize at the warehouse and get paid instantly, whether through MTN, mobile money, or M-Pesa, whatsoever. And those commodities, after being checked for quality and quantity, are supplied to large off-takers, processors, and exporters. Now, what we realize is that by moving the needle of post-harvest losses low, we are literally meeting our food requirements. There's a lot of intervention that has been put into production for a long time, But it's time that governments and young people begin to pay attention to aggregation, which is right after production. And we believe that with the technology we've built that gives you access to finance and partake in that area, we are going to reduce post-harvest loss. Now, for a lot of the young people who are in rural communities who may not be here, there's a very simple message. For the very first time through this platform, you can become an aggregator. And by going into the very deep hinterlands and buying from farmers, you make a commission on every single bag you supply to the warehouse. And I'm very excited about what we're doing because we believe the future is in our hands as young people. And I want to take a minute to talk to the young people here. Your future is in your hands. You shape the future you want. So I want to challenge everyone here, go back, and in the worst case scenario, either start a farm or buy from a farmer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nana, and thank you very much for highlighting another key challenge which we face in our agri-food systems, that of post-harvest losses. And really applaud what you're doing with your application to reduce these post-harvest losses by addressing aggregation issues. Thank you, and the call to the young people to go and do something, either start a farm or buy from a farmer. What a challenge. Now, we move on because we are, now I've seen that I started with all the males. Our first lady here, Ms. Esther Wanjiru, is also into tech and has a device. She's the CEO of Farmer Lifeline in Kenya, and she will tell us more about what she's doing. But what I want to know is to really maybe share about how you are able to connect with farmers, given that we still have challenges of connectivity in the rural areas. And so if you could share about that and challenge the youth what they can do in this space of digitalization. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and even for having me here. The youth, hi. At the top there, hi. So yes, my name is Esther Wanjiru Kimani from Kenya. At Farmer Lifeline, we help farmers identify crop pests and diseases through a device that captures images, and in case it identifies a pest or a disease, a farmer is notified using a simple SMS. So whether it's an Android phone or the old phone that you have to press 3 times to get the C, they will still get that SMS and they're able to act. So it makes the farmers more of proactive than reactive. So we did this when we realized that farmers are losing a lot of their yields because of the pests and diseases. And the youth, on the other side, are discouraged from venturing into agriculture. When they see the losses that are there in agriculture, when they see that it will take you some days to scout an entire farm with your parents maybe to identify these pests and diseases. So as an entrepreneur, and I think I can speak also on behalf of young entrepreneurs who are beginning, there are challenges, especially when it comes to connectivity. The good thing about Kenya, by the time it was hitting 2020, because of the COVID pandemic, it's like the entire world was shifting online. And Kenya, not being left behind, had to take everything online. Studies went online. We were working from home. So even in the rural areas, even the farmers were required to buy phones, if not for farming, for their children, for them to attend to the lessons. So when Farmer Lifeline was going to these rural areas, we at least found that farmers had some digital literacy of some keywords. They could identify IT, ICT, bundles, data. So it was at least easier to pick it up from there. The pandemic did come with at least some bit of a positive impact in that area that people had to go online. They were forced to go online. But as an entrepreneur, I also encountered a number of challenges which have been mentioned by our honorable ministers, such as finance. For me, I'm coming out of campus. I barely have collateral. I can only tell an investor that in 2 years, I will have this amount as profit. I can only tell them my collateral is registering my company. you know. So this is the only thing I can place on the table for me as an entrepreneur. But I was, it was a good opportunity to meet Agra. Agra held my hand. We are currently working with 900 farmers, but with the kind of push I got from Agra, I'm sure I will be able to scale up, reach to more farmers and the like. But remember, there are youth who don't know how to get to these investors. So how do we do this? And this is what we found when we went to the rural areas. The young people have migrated. They have moved from their homes where agriculture is, and they are moving to towns. But I know that will be discussed later. So when you're trying to train the farmers, you are training the aged. So you're trying to tell an old woman that an SMS will come onto your phone, and when this happens, this is what you're supposed to do. So they want to understand, first of all, what technology are you bringing? We are used to these traditional ways. But imagine if we found the youth also in the rural areas assisting in disseminating this information to also this other generation. It would have been easier. Then I think another challenge I experienced was on media. The media play a very key role in every country, in the continent, we must agree. But the picture that I had of agriculture by then, I don't think was so nice. You know, but if the media would come out and say the youth are involved in innovation, the youth are making it in agriculture, let's go back to our homelands and let's make use of this land, you know, there is innovation that we can make work easier at the farm, because most of the youth run away because using the hose and the djembes, and it's a lot of work. But if the media had painted that picture to us from a young age, so that when we are growing up, we know that we still have opportunity in agriculture, I can get involved, I think it would have been an easier sale, even for Farmer Lifeline. So I know we'll share more, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the excellent work you're doing. And the challenge to the media, please portray a very positive picture of agriculture. You see what she's doing. She's a university graduate, making it out there, working with farmers, and that will encourage our youth to stay in the rural areas and help and farm the lands that are available. Now I'll move to our development partner, Dr. Edson Pisi with the African Development Bank. He is the chief financial economist and coordinates a very big program called Enable Youth. So you recently participated in the Africa Green Revolution Forum, AGRF, which was just a few weeks ago. And there we had also youth, there was a call to action for youth to be engaged in the transformation of agricultural food systems. I want for you to speak to us about the opportunities that you see for youth in agri-food systems. And in addressing that, tell us about the exciting opportunities that African Development Bank can offer to the many youth that are really paying attention to what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Norma, and it's a pleasure for me to be here with a room so full of youth. I love working with youth. That's my fun part of the job. So I'll go very quickly to respond to your question, the opportunities that are there for the youth in agriculture. I should say that I think this is the best time to be alive for youth agripreneurs on this continent in Africa, because so many development partners, so many governments are rooting for youth. We have all realized that we cannot leave youth behind. They are the center of this continent. At 75% of the continent is under 35 years of age. So all development partners have programs geared towards youth. All governments have programs geared towards youth. The Honorable Minister of Agriculture of Rwanda just mentioned that here today. Yesterday, the Deputy President of Kenya mentioned that they have special programs for youth, not only in agriculture, and for development partners as well. For the African Development Bank, we have a specific initiative called Enable Youth, which is to empower youth in agribusiness. And over the past 6 years, under this initiative, the bank has invested over $400 million in 15 countries. What those Enable Youth projects do is that we support incubation centers in specific countries to provide training for the youth, short-term training on the actual value chain that they'd like to go into. So it's short-term training on agronomic skills. For example, if you want to do fish farming, you have to understand, what kind of pond you dig, what kind of liner you're using, where do you get the feed for the fish, where do you get the fingerlings, what's the stocking rate. So you need these skills. They're critical for you. But in addition to those agronomic skills, we also provide business development skills so that you can run your own business. So that's the training part with the incubation. However, in addition to that, we also have a component that is access to finance. So we have some financing that is run through a local financial institution so that the youth who have gone through this training can access financing, and there are different facilities depending on where you are in your business travels. For those who are still at the early stages, there are some grants. For others who are a bit advanced, there's subsidized financing. Others who are way ahead, we have some kind of guarantees, risk guarantees within that. So for example, in Kenya, Esther was talking about, we have an Enable Youth project in Kenya of about $30 million. Half of that is about 15 is working with incubation centers, and then half of that is access to finance through the Agricultural Finance Corporation. So Esther, when you go back, please find out from the Ministry of Agriculture. So having said that, that's just one of the initiatives that the bank is doing in the agriculture sector, but there are many other initiatives for youth in other sectors as well. I think two important points I'd like to point out, opportunities for youth going forward, is in agri-tech. Most of the youth here have their businesses in agri-tech. Agri-tech is leading the agriculture in the future and agri-food systems. What agri-tech allows you to do is to reduce your production costs, reduce your risks, and the bottom line is that you increase your profits. For some of us who have been in agriculture for many years, doing agriculture, trying to find out what is in the soil was so difficult. It took such a long time. It was so expensive. But now, with some kind of a tool which you can stick in the soil, or with a drone, you can scout a whole field and find out within a few minutes and at a fraction of that cost what are the nutrient status of that field. So agri-tech really, I think, is an important way to go. And just to say that this is not theoretical. It is happening now. Nana has said he's doing it. There's a company in Kenya called Twiga Foods. They have been in existence for about 8 years now. They're using their agri-tech ICTs to work on their supply chains, and they have raised capital close to $100 million over the last few years. They're serving, and what they have managed to do is the farmers that they work with, they have managed to cut post-harvest losses from 30% to about 4% with the farmers that they're working with. I mean, that is really a great achievement. In terms of investments in this sector, I just looked up some statistics that in 2018, the agri-tech sector, the revenues were about $150 million. And that's only 6% of the market. So there is space to grow in this area. In terms of equity investments in this sector, in 2020, $180 million was invested in the agri-tech sector. So for sure, there's a big possibility in that area. There are many other companies, and many of them are being led by youth. I mentioned Twiga Foods. The founder is relatively young. There is Hello Tractor. Many of you have heard about it. It's called the Uber of tractors or mechanization. It's also started by young people, like these ones on stage here. So just to mention one point where the bank is working in terms of supporting this ag sector, we have worked with the FAO to develop what we call digitalization for agriculture flagship. And what the bank and FAO are doing is to support governments to provide that last mile infrastructure, because that's usually where it requires a fair amount of money to be able to provide these digital technologies to reduce the cost so that they are affordable. One more point I'd like about opportunities for the youth here is before I finish on agri-tech, whenever we talk about agri-tech, most times we just end at ICTs, but also in terms of inputs, the seeds, you will be surprised the amount of technology that goes into that hybrid seed. There's millions of dollars that have gone into producing that seed. So right now, there are so many technologies of drought-resilient seeds that are out there, pest-resilient seeds, so there's really a great opportunity in agri-tech. One other point I'd like to mention is on value addition. I'm talking to you who are here as also a farmer. I also farm. I do some drip irrigation. But I found from experience, you have to have some value addition. Otherwise, you're not going to move. If you're going to grow bananas, if you're going to grow lettuce, and you just sell it as it is, don't try it. Have some kind of value addition. On the continent, we import about $75 billion annually of food, and most of that is processed food from outside the continent. So there's a great opportunity for processing your food and value addition. Statistics show that by 2030, the agriculture and food market on the continent will be a $1 trillion industry. So also that's another great opportunity. I think I'm taking too long, but having talked about those opportunities, I think I'd like to add some advice as somebody who has worked in this sector for quite some time. Yesterday, one of the football legends used a very good analysis, analogy, where he said, if you're going to go into any business, there's no elevator to take you to the top. You have to use the stairs. So sometimes I think we're oversimplifying and saying, oh, agriculture is good, it's sexy, come in, you'll make money. But you have to be ready to work. There's a lot of work. You have to have discipline. You have to study and gather all that information. And you have to be a real entrepreneur, set to go all the way to the end. So let me stop here for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mpisi. I will not try to summarize because I've been reminded we are really running out of time, and I really want you to hear from the amazing agripreneurs that we still have that are yet to speak. I will move on to Tamara. She's the CEO of AgriDis, which is a production and distribution company. She's doing some of the things that you've spoken about, Dr. Mpisi, about value addition, and she's also working with farmers in the production. You have the floor. Let me ask more of, based on what you've done as a successful entrepreneur and your extensive work, because I understand you work with many youths in your country and in the Central African region, what are key priorities of youth in agri-food systems, and what would you say to our development partners and our representatives of government here on what they can do to support youth in agriculture? Over to you.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tous. Je suis Tamara Mtotekema du Gabon. Alors, j'ai créé AgriDis, qui est une société de production et distribution de produits agricoles. Nous travaillons essentiellement avec des coopératives agricoles. Ce qu'on fait, c'est qu'on préfinance les productions. On travaille avec des petites industries qui font la transformation et nous revendons toutes ces productions. Nous travaillons avec des supermarchés et nous sommes en phase d'exportation dans la région de l'Afrique centrale, en Australie et en France. Je ne vais pas être très longue. Ce que je voudrais dire, c'est que si on parle de développement du secteur agricole, il faut qu'on investisse davantage dans l'accès à l'information. Pour moi, l'accès à l'information est primordial pour les entrepreneurs en général, en particulier dans le secteur agricole, pour prendre les meilleures décisions. L'accès à l'information pour être au fait des nouvelles méthodes de production, des méthodes saines de production. Il y a également la formation. J'insiste sur la formation parce qu'aujourd'hui, on parle de la zone des libre-échanges continentale africaine Et ceux qui réussiront à mieux vendre dans ce grand marché continental, c'est ceux qui seront compétitifs. Et quand on parle de compétitivité, c'est add value, comme a dit le monsieur tout à l'heure, c'est d'avoir les capacités de créer des produits de qualité pour être compétitif à l'international. Et pour cela, il faut former davantage. Je vais rajouter l'infrastructure, parce qu'on ne peut pas parler de développement du secteur agricole si on n'a pas d'infrastructure. Il faut les routes en bon état. Nous travaillons essentiellement aux zones rurales. Nous avons énormément de pertes de production parce qu'il y a des routes qui sont en mauvais état. Il y a des zones dans lesquelles on n'a pas accès parce qu'il y a des routes qui sont en mauvais état. On fait de l'exportation, on parle des routes, mais il y a également les coûts de transport. Le transport coûte excessivement cher. Il y a également le stockage. Il y a énormément de production, mais si on ne peut pas avoir des stockages qui sont proches des plantations, c'est également de la perte de production. Donc c'est important que les partenaires au développement, les gouvernements investissent dans les infrastructures pour permettre aux agriculteurs, aux entrepreneurs de pouvoir être compétitifs. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Tamara. Thank you very much and for highlighting the issue of infrastructure. We really press for time because, you know, we're delayed, but I really want to give the two remaining agripreneurs an opportunity. Please take 3 minutes, and I hope the youth here can identify you and come to talk more and learn about what you're doing. I apologize for giving you less time than the others. Claire Hosson, she's addressing the logistical challenges that we also know are impeding the agricultural sector. Please tell us about what you do and how you see this expanding.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. My name is Claire. I'm an entrepreneur from Maputo, Mozambique. So I founded Upload because I realized that in the country where I live, Mozambique, the fertilizers in the Mozambican farms were costing 3 times the price that they cost at an American farm, for instance. And why is that? It is because of the cost of logistics, road logistics. So we founded Upload. Upload, it's an app where a client in agriculture, for instance, can say, I need to ship 30 tons of maize from Lusaka to Kigali. They send on the platform, the transporters are notified in real time and can express offers if they are interested and available. Then the client can book on Upload, pay in a safe way, and the transporters are paid quickly so that their operating costs are also paid in advance, and the shipment is monitored until the end with the driver app. We are shipping 90% of what we do in agriculture, and the reason is that agriculture needs efficient logistics, as you just said, Tamara. There are some harvests, we talked about the post-harvest losses, that are literally lost because of the lack of timely solution. So now you can say, I need this shipment tomorrow, and then you can get the trucks that are around. Second, you need cheap options. So how about we use the empty trucks that sometimes go to a destination and come back empty? With an app like that, you can identify these empty trucks and get discounted rates because they already amortize the price on the way in. And finally, the most important, we need reliable logistics. A farmer cannot afford to have an informal truck that is not insured, not properly maintained, has an accident on the road, and then all the yield of the last 6 months are lost. This is what it's about. Logistics is about that. All the efforts upstream can be lost because of logistics. Moving forward on, how there are other solutions like Upload. We are not the only one on the continent doing so. What I would really, like to say very quickly is really to resonate with my fellow entrepreneurs here. We need the youth. Just for the transportation companies, we don't talk to the owners of the transportation companies. We talk to their daughters and sons who understand technology. And the same goes in agriculture. But we need the youth to be there, to engage with that old generation and trust technology. But in addition to everything also that was said, access to finance, of course, better roads, I would like to say that, to speak to the youth today, if you're considering being an entrepreneur, and I really encourage you to do so because it's a fantastic journey. In agriculture, it's so rewarding. But as Mr. Hedges said, it's also extremely difficult. I'm an entrepreneur, and this is all my life that is an entrepreneurial journey. And so I would say, surround yourself also with other entrepreneurs who knows the struggle, and together we will succeed, because this is the final word maybe. Logistics is nothing if there is no production, upstream.
I urge you should be in position to write your budget for your business. You should be in position to write a business plan. Try to register your business, because this is to work hand in hand with a viable business. Then I have to talk about how we can help the youth to remain in rural areas as they do their work there. We need incubation centers. The incubation centers should be extended to the rural areas so as to enable those people to get the knowledge of food and value addition, processing, because this problem is causing the issue of seasonal factors. They grow the food, and the food is all finished in one season. They are not storing the food.
Thank you very much, Florence.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I know you have a lot to share. I've been asked to make an announcement that they will need to arrange the room while we close this session. So what I would like to do, because we didn't have a chance for Q&A, is those young people that want to interact with our panelists, please can we congregate over there as they reconfigure the room for the next panel. Apologies for not giving you the opportunity to interact with us, but please give a big round of applause to our panelists.